What up, people? It's Nickopz here, and today I have another member requested video, and I actually really like making these, so let's get right into it. All right, now as you can see right here, I have a membership for my channel if you would like to join. There are three different tiers, and if you would like to join the final tier, you can get me to talk about whatever topic you want regarding Mortal Kombat 1. So, as you can see right here, Florp, let's go ahead and read what he said. Hey, yo, month two, hello. What makes MK1 low tier characters actually low tier? In parentheses, he has Peacemaker, Shang, Sub, Takeda, Garrus. And what are some tips or tech for all of these characters that you don't see being utilized too often? If you know these characters well enough, I played Takeda and Garrus mostly, so I'm asking also for tips. Now, the first statement I want to make about this, Floor, is first things first. When it comes to what's low tier and what's top tier and all that good stuff, it's all subjective for the most part. And just off of those five characters that you listed, I don't think two of those characters are low tier. And the two characters I don't think are low tier are Peacemaker and Sub. I think they are the tier above low tier. The rest of those characters I completely agree with. I think Takeda is low tier. I think Garrus is low tier and Shang is low tier. I would put them in the lowest tier of the game. And I can see how some people could think Peacemaker and Sub are lower tier, but I don't think they are just flat out low tier characters. And I'll get the Sub-Zero one out of the way right now, because I'm not going to talk about Sub for too long, because people start running rampant when it comes to their precious Sub-Zero. So let me just make this clear about Sub. Sub gets saved by Chameleon. Period, point blank. Now, I do think without Chameleon, Sub-Zero is a very bad character. A really, really bad character, actually. I know some people like to debate it with Chameleon. I mean, not Chameleon. I know some people like to debate it with Serena and Sonya on how good he is, but I just don't agree. I think Sub-Zero absolutely needs Chameleon, and whether you think that's a good thing or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is he gets saved by Chameleon. Chameleon does a lot for Sub-Zero, and without it, he isn't really a good character. He's just not. So, again, whether you think that's a good thing or not, I'm not saying if it's a good thing or not. Even though personally I don't think that's a good thing, I think that it would be cool if he had more options of assists he could pick. I understand being annoyed on being locked in to one assist, but that doesn't change the fact Sub-Zero becomes a good character with Chameleon. I've made a whole video talking about this if you want to see the deep dive into that, but I'm not going to keep going into that because it's just one of those topics that's so obvious. I don't think it needs to be argued. He's just good with Chameleon. There's no way around that. But if you think he needs buff still because you don't only want to use Chameleon, that's fine, but you can't say the character is the worst character in the game or garbage when he has Chameleon. Now we're going to talk about Peacemaker more a little later, but let's get into the question at hand. And these are two characters I can very easily explain why they are low tier. And again, to answer the question, there is no for sure answer to that. The question is what makes a character low tier, and it's not the same as a character being top tier. Because if a character is top tier, there are, at least in this game, a lot of the top tier characters follow the same set of rules and the way that they can play. And I don't want to say too much because that could be another video topic, but if this question was answered on what makes a character, if this question was asked on what makes a character top tier, then it would be an easy answer, but there is no easy answer for that when it comes to low tier characters. When it comes to low tier characters, there are multiple reasons why each specific character isn't good. And not all of those characters have the same reason why they are down there. It's all different. So what I'm going to do is the characters that I agree are low tier off the characters you listed, I'm going to go ahead and break that down more in depth. So, Garrus. Garrus is low tier because he doesn't have a real archetype. You know, with most characters, you can place them into an archetype slot. Garrus does not have an archetype. That's why he is a bad character. His archetype was stripped from him, actually. In MK11, he was, I'm basic, good character. That's what he was. He had a 50-50 in one of his strings. He had a really good mid. It was a mid-mid. It actually looked like that one right there. But it was a mid-mid until it got nerfed to a mid-high. But he had incredible Oki. Incredible Oki. If you don't know what Oki is, to explain it simply, it's when you do something and you get put back in an advantageous position, if that makes sense. So, Oki. That right there, that move gives him bad Oki. That gives him bad Oki. His grab, that gives him good Oki. Look how close he is. And in MK11, Garrus could just hit you with anything, any touch, and put you back right by him to where you had to keep guessing all over again. He had amazing Oki. And in this game, he doesn't have an archetype, like at all. He's not a neutral-based character. He's not a pressure character. He's not a grappler. I don't care that he has a command grab. He's not a grappler. This isn't a good command grab, first of all. And again, like we talked about Oki, look at that. Look how far he's left away from you after doing that. Everything he does doesn't put him in a good position. That's why Garrus is bad. Because when you read a lot of characters on paper, like Garrus, Garrus is good on paper. You know, low, overhead, forward advancing buttons, but he just doesn't have an archetype. He might have some tools, but they're not good. Like, the projectile is not good. The mid is okay. You know, the hitbox on it is very janky and weird. They did buff it and give him this move. That's decent, but it wasn't enough. Again, I've made a video breaking down Garrus more in depth on what makes him bad, but to put it simply, it's because he doesn't have an archetype, and everything he does puts him in a position he doesn't want to be in. Even in this game, Garrus wants to be close to you all the time because his projectile is not good, and every assist that's been good on Garrus has been based around getting him in. Garrus was really good at the beginning of this game's life cycle when he had Kung Lao hat, and that shows how much nuance is in fighting games, because when Garrus had that +2 hat, it fixed a lot of his issues. But now that that's gone, he is one of the worst characters in the game. Think about that. He was actually a decent character, but when one move got its +2 taken away from it, the low hat, he became one of the worst characters in the game. That's how much nuance and how delicate it is to buff and nerf characters in fighting games. Because I know that a dev did not nerf that Kung Lao assist to +2 and think, this is going to really hurt Garrus. They didn't think that, but it did. So, yeah, Garrus just doesn't have an archetype, like at all. He doesn't get rewarded off of anything he does for the most part, and playing him is an uphill battle. You know, you're going to always be at a disadvantage no matter where you're at on the screen, and I think he's a very bad character. Now to talk about Shang, because Shang, I actually feel really bad for this character, because this character is one of the more difficult characters to play in the game, and he isn't good. It doesn't show. Usually with more difficult characters, they're good because that makes sense. If a character is harder to play, it makes sense for people to get rewarded more for learning that harder character. Now, Shang ain't the hardest character. I would say he's like intermediate, but for how much nuance there is to play him because of the stance switching, he isn't good and he's not worth playing. And this is one that you can kind of use universal for when a character is low tier, when there's just no reason to play them. But I feel like that's really obvious when there's no reason to play Shang at all. No one can tell me one reason to play Shang in this game. I actually want you to try, like take it as a challenge, because that one person that always like to make stuff a challenge, tell me one reason, like logically, like fighting game wise, that there is to play Shang. I don't want to hear you like his beard or something. You know how people be getting weird like that? No. Genuinely, what's one fighting game reason to play Shang? There isn't one, in my opinion. So, let me go ahead and switch these. Now, I said Garrus is bad because he doesn't have an archetype, and flat out his archetype that was good on him was stripped from him. Shang is bad for a different reason. That's why I want to break down each character a little bit. Now, when it comes to Shang, Shang is bad for this reason. I've said this a lot, and I'm going to reiterate it in this video. Shang is a character that would be great if both of his forms were combined. If Shang could do all the stuff that he can do in both of the forms, and it wasn't separated, this character would easily be top tier. Easily. Actually easily. But they decided to make him a stance switch character, which, you know, I applaud them for at least trying. But like I said in my tier list video, they failed. They absolutely failed. So I feel like, you know, they should never do this again because they are showing that they can't really do it, because instead of making a character that was good across the board, they ended up making a character that desperately needs all of his tools combined into one. And that's why Shang isn't good. I feel like Shang has suffered from them trying to do something different. And the only way to make him good is to make at least one of the forms top tier, bare minimum at this point. But both of the forms are not good. And I'm really not trying to make fun of them because, again, at least they tried. But it's actually, I'm not going to say impressive, but it's crazy how they made two forms of a character both be bad. Like, that's insane. They had a chance to make two characters in one, but instead they made both forms bad. Like, that's a skill right there, to make both forms bad, but not really. It's just funny. Again, this character is not good because he needs all his tools. And they took a character, boom, a base character, split his tools and put him in one and then put him in another, which wasn't good. A good example of a split character is Zeku. If you want to look that up, look up Street Fighter V Zeku. That is what a split character should look like. So, yep, that's Shang. Now, let's talk about why Takeda isn't good. This actually shows off what the membership will do, because I was never going to talk about Takeda again in a video. I didn't want to discuss this character anymore because how ignorant people were being when it comes to Takeda was very annoying. Like, literally, I was making videos, hey y'all, Takeda wasn't good when he first came out. And then all the higher level players, they ended up realizing really quickly this character wasn't that good. But those mid-low to lower level players that just saw, oh, well, are you serious? Takeda's doing 50% and he's bad? Yes, I'm serious. Takeda is not a good character. And on top of that, they have nerfed him. Before, when he was doing all of that damage, he at least had that. But now that damage is gone because they tried to make up for it by buffing the damage in a lot of his base moves, but you could tell that they hit the damage hard. Stuff that used to do 50 to 52 now does 44 to 46. So that was the one thing he at least had going for him, and that's gone. Takeda is definitely, in my opinion, still a contender for one of the worst characters in the game. I don't know if he's the worst because, again, I think Garrus and Shang are so bad, but he easily could be the worst. Still, one of those characters easily are the worst. Takeda is bad because, like I said with Garrus, how he doesn't have an archetype. Takeda has an archetype. He's just not good at it. Takeda is meant to be a space control, neutral-centric type character that is meant to grab you. a lot. You know, get you scared in the neutral, and when to press you with this button right here and this button and this button. He's meant to scare you with his big buttons, and then when he's finally in, he's meant to scare you with the grab mind games and all that good stuff. But the problem is he's not good at doing either one of those things. Now, this is something I want to get out of the way, and I'm going to need someone to fact check this, but I guess it's kind of hard to fact check this. Some people say that this isn't a real auto shimmy, which I don't know how I feel about that, because a lot of people get hit by it. I don't know if it's an offline online thing. There are some people saying that this isn't real offline. I mean, if that's the case, that's a problem for less than 1% of the player base. So we'll just act like that this is completely real. And even with this being completely real, it's not good. So again, like I said, Takeda's supposed to press you with these big buttons, make you scared of these big buttons, and then go in and grab you. Because his overhead is not good. It puts you full screen, and his low isn't good as well. They purposely made the low and overhead like this, in my opinion, because they wanted to encourage you not to use them a lot. And it was meant to be something he could just throw out. Like, again, just throw that out. And the low literally doesn't have a follow-up where you can get a combo off of it. So I can tell with them making this right here, because this looks like it's supposed to be a real auto shimmy. And oh wait, I forgot, we're acting like it's completely real. So let's say this is completely real. If you don't know what the auto shimmy grab mind game stuff is, basically how it goes, when you're in someone's face, and a lot of people don't know this, a lot of people still think Mortal Kombat, like the lower level players, they think it's all overhead, low. No, when you're in someone's face, they need to guess grab, mid, or auto shimmy, if they have one, if the character has one. That is a consistent way to open a lot of people up. You'll notice it more when you get to the higher levels of play. And Takeda was meant to be played like that, because this grab right here, as you can see, you can obviously tell he was meant to get combos off of that, how it pops you up. But again, Takeda is not good at everything he's meant to be good at. So let's talk about every bad tool that Takeda has. First of all, this is meant to be his bread and butter. That's a 20 frame range mid, which wouldn't be bad if the second hit was good. They need to change the trajectory of that second hit. The second hit should lift much higher and go much more behind him. Like, it's just a very bad angle, because you can jump in on him a lot on this. This was not meant to be jumped in on. It wasn't. And I don't know why they made it like this, because like in the last MK, this move had a purpose. It was overhead, which I understand why they don't make it an overhead in this game. It was a double overhead, which is really good because it combined with the 50-50 game kind of his low. But he doesn't have that anymore, which is fine. It would be fine if the move was actually good. But this move is not good because you can hit him out of it so easily, and it's very slow, and it has no layers, no mind games behind it. It's a 20 frame mid that has a garbage follow-up hit. First hit's okay, it's decent, but that second hit is just abysmal. So that is a problem, you know. So the mid isn't good. Then he has the other buttons, like this was his most recent buff. Like, what was this for? This isn't good, like, at all. There was no reason to buff this. This actually did nothing for him. It's not good. Maybe if it was a mid, it would be decent. Like, if they made this a 14-15 frame mid, it'd be decent, but it's just not good. So that button's not good. This button's not that good. So that takes away his neutral centric archetype. It's really not good because his big buttons aren't scary. And on top of that, to be a character that's really good in the neutral centric archetype, space control move type archetype, you need something that can play around that big button too. So having this big button isn't enough. You need something to play around it, which again makes the move scary because, okay, if they're not going to do this, they're going to do that. And he doesn't have that. This isn't good. That isn't good. All his big buttons suck. And they're all like the same speed too. Like, what was the point? He's just not good at what he does. And I mean, if this low had a different follow-up, he can play around the button with the low, but the low just splats. So that's not even scary. So again, he's not good at what he does. He's not good at how he's meant to be played. So let's go back into the up close game. You know, the how he's supposed to throw you all day. Again, he gets throw combos with a decent amount of the cast, but not enough. For how bad this character is, his grab will have to get him a combo with like 80% of this cast for it to even start to help him. But again, like I said, he's just not really good at what he does. You know, he can't even apply the up close throw game a lot in a very scary way because his mid isn't scary. So that takes away one of the three steps it takes to have a scary grab game. You know, the grab combos are, you know, barely scary with most of the casts because he doesn't have one that just gets him a straight up easy follow up with also fixing his lack of tools. He just doesn't. So again, Takeda is just not good at what he does. He's a bad space control character. Simple as that. He's just not good at what he's meant to do. That's why Takeda is bad. Yep, now to wrap the video up, to talk about Peacemaker, because that is one of the characters he also put. I don't think Peacemaker is bad. So I'm not really sure what to say with this character. Honestly, I think he's quite decent when fair. You know, just decent, bare minimum decent. I think if there is a lowest tier, he's right above it. I feel like Farrah helps him out in a lot of ways. He was nerfed, gives him some consistency, just doesn't let him play as originally lame as he was before. But yep, that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Again, check out my membership if you would like to get me to talk about a topic of your choosing. And Nickopz out.